Welcome to this podcast. This is one of hopefully many that Steve and Wakeling will be putting out, and I'm going to be grilling Steve with a few questions on everyone's behalf, so please email in with the types of subjects you want covering. But this first one is really about spiritualism. Is it a religion?
Well, without doubt, Johnny, it is definitely classed as a religion. I have a slight difference upon that because I've been involved now for 30 years. And there has without doubt been a significant change, very much to becoming almost mainstream Orthodox religion. Now that's great for some people who want that, but I prefer the way I saw it 30 years ago, when I looked upon it as a truth, a bit like a Rastafarian, who see it as not a religion, but as a truth. I believe that spirituality runs through everything. So whether you're an Orthodox Jew, whether you're a Catholic, a Christian, it doesn't matter which road or pathway in life you're on.
Yes.
It's how you tread it.
Explore this idea of the parallels with Rastafarianism for me then. That's a really interesting kind of point to make, I think.
Well, it is. I've actually know people who are Rastas and I've spoke to them and, you know, at great length and worked with them. And they would talk about, obviously, Haile Selassie and, and Zion, Lion, and all of that sort of culture. But also where a lot of people, I'm not saying I agree with everything and I don't expect them to agree with me. But the reality is that the people I spoke to see it not as a religion, but they see it as a truth, a way of life. And I believe that's the same thing as I see with my spiritual work. It's a way of life that I can continue through this life, but also it will furnish me well for the next life. Not just to a point that I become intolerant of others and see myself as totally right, because the reality is that I'm on the path, a different path to other people, but as I say, it's not the path, it's how I tread it and who do I help along my path.
Interesting. So you kind of sit outside the orthodoxy of the spiritualist church, then, is that fair to say? Because I mean, I've filmed you at a number of locations, some of them inside spiritualist churches, where as a sort of a lapsed Christian, I suppose, I'd recognise it as a traditional service. There was a sort of basically some kind of hymn at the beginning, some kind of address, you sort of delivering the sermon, as it were. You know, kind of, what are the parallels then?
Well, obviously it is a religion. When I first got into spiritualism, as I say, 30 years ago, one is aware it's a religion, and because of that you adhere to the rules, of which I do. But I feel that it has become more mainstream, and obviously I can understand there's a lot of people who purely simply go for a message, and if the message is available, and we never know, because there is no hard and fast, it's not a pure science, but if a message is given from somebody in the world of eternal light, in the spirit world, or heaven, or Valhalla, whichever you want to call it, at the end of the day, they're in another world. I think they're free of religion, because religion just holds us together and keeps us within confined rules and regulations. So in a spiritualist church, I've got no problem at all with the 7 principles. I am a member of the National Spiritualist Union, but my belief is that we should have tolerance to other people, and if people want to join us, why should you want to force them into a mainstream of religion when we're talking about truth? And it says it in our banner: truth, light and love. Well, what truth? Your truth or my truth?
Yeah, interesting. So do you feel yourself like increasingly drawn away from the spiritualist church movement, or where do you sit in terms of where you're kind of positioning what you want to do in the future, I suppose?
No, I don't, because I do feel that it's the place where you can work and you can operate. And there is a gentleman who was a president of the National Spiritualist Union, and a personal friend of mine has just written a book. And within this book, it's quite interesting. Now, bear in mind, he is a minister, and that's not anything I want to be. I don't want to be a minister.
But there's a minister in the spiritualist church.
Yeah, he's a minister. There are ministers. They used to be called little letters. Now they have to call themselves the minister, you see, and it's slightly changed. But in his book, he writes that if you turn the clock back 100 years in Great Britain, there used to be many Wesleyan churches, particularly in the southwest, in Wales, and now they've pretty much gone. Because if we're not careful, we force people into one way, which is our way, and we miss the point is, what do they want? So I am a spiritualist, and I enjoy working in spiritualist churches, and some are more religious than others. I also, in the East Midlands District Council, am their marketing consultant. But it doesn't mean to say that we can all agree, you know, as a family, in your own personal family, people fall out. So as a group of spiritualists, we may all perceive it differently. My view is that we should be very tolerant of people's views and accept their views, and if they want to wholeheartedly be right down the middle, hard stream, then fine, but we should allow people with different views. And mine most certainly is the fact that when we enter into the realms of eternity, I don't believe there'll be any churches, any synagogues, any chapels, and most certainly nobody singing the hymns that I want to hear, because personally I would rather have a modern song, because I see the faces on people and the shuffle. It always takes me back to many years ago. If I went to a spiritualist church and I used to get bored, I used to always read a particular hymn, 357 in the National Spiritualist Union hymn book, and it's "The Day Thou Lord Hast Gave Us." I've read it many times. However, at my funeral I want no hymns, I only want laughter, and particularly songs like the King's.
I'm sure there'll be plenty of that. I find it interesting that you call yourself a spiritual medium, not a spiritualist medium. Where's the sort of distinction that we're making there? Because in working on your website recently, we've been having this discussion, haven't we?
Yeah, well, I'm a spiritualist, but, as I say, but I think that if you start to talk to a lot of people, particularly people who want to talk to me, not just in a private reading, but they ask me questions, and particularly through spiritualist resources based in the United States of America, people ask me questions, and they're asking me spiritual questions. They're not asking me to go there and kind of be evangelical, trying to get them, oh, you must follow my path. No, I don't want to do that. So I believe that within all things, and for example, a great spiritual man, Gandhi, another great spiritual man, Desmond Tutu, there are many, many great spiritual people, and what they are seeking within it, and this is my friends who are Sikhs, and you look at the gurus, particularly Guru Nanak, the first guru, he was enlightened, and he's talking about being in touch with the supreme power. Now, what that supreme power is, I really don't know, because it's really up to your own interpretation. I have my view, but I have to allow other people their view, because chances are I could be wrong. But the reality of it is that the only way we can seek a furtherance of knowledge that will sustain us through our next and most important step into the world of light is spirituality. And it's spirituality that bonds humanity together, and religion historically has destroyed mankind.
Well, yeah, that's fertile territory for perhaps another discussion, that, isn't it? But to finish off then, just give us a couple of minutes. You've been on a tour of America recently. Mm-hmm. Probably the subject of another podcast, the whole kind of American tour thing, which is really interesting. But what was their take in America then, that the people you visited, in terms of this idea of spiritualism perhaps as a sort of religion? Where did they, what kind of an audience did you have over there? Well,
it was different. I did speak to occasionally. I don't tell everybody when I meet them what I do, but I met some people in the street from different parts of America, and I in fact finished up telling me what I do, and they look at it on a spiritual level. I was in San Francisco. I did 2 meetings in there. One of the most deprived areas, Gardena. Sorry, that was in Los Angeles. So San Francisco, Los Angeles, Escondido, which is near San Diego. And when I was there, that on a Sunday they do wear vicar's garbs, or ministry garbs, yeah, which is their right, and that's what they like. And yet the people I spoke to, including a lovely lady called Christine as a minister, and various other people over there who I've got to know, and their view was slightly different. So okay, you get somebody who's got a religious slant and somebody who has not. Yeah. But when I did the Harmony Grove Spiritual Association in Escondido in Southern California, in all honesty, it was a packed house, and it was no different to anywhere else, because people are people, and they were lovely people, and it went fantastic, and I got some fantastic reviews back from it. But they like my human nature, my human touch.
The sense of humour you put through it.
Well, I do enjoy it. So maybe somebody doesn't, but I don't want to go to the next world and be crying.
Fantastic. Right, we better leave it there at this point. But thoughts about next podcast then? Where are we likely to be going?
Well, I think we need to look within our spirituality. I think we could look at how we can develop our spirituality. One of the questions is, and I think also this awful thing, which I personally think is ghosts, because I don't see any ghosts.
Let's talk about ghosts next time. That's a subject right up my street. That. Excellent. Okay, let's sign off there. Until next time, thank you very much.
Thank you, Johnny.